Tuesday, 25th?
Yes.
It's January 25th, 2020. We are at Living Arts for the last day of Palazzo's exhibit. He's about to give his artist talk.
Today. This has been, the past 2 weeks have really probably been my favorite time here at Living Arts, and I have to say it's because of having Michael's work and inspiration in the space. Our staff has literally pulled tables into the gallery just so we can work and be near the artwork and just with the natural light. And we've just truly enjoyed it, and we've also enjoyed seeing all of the wonderful people coming in, many that know Michael personally, some that have just heard about his work or seen it through the promotion. So I just want to first thank you, Michael, for applying for this opportunity, and I'm just so glad it worked out. My name is Heather Duncan. I'm the interim executive director, and again, we just want to welcome you all to Living Arts. We want you to know that we're here Tuesday through Saturday, 12 to 5, and we have a new show that will be opening. It's a member artist show that will be opening in February, and I believe we'll see a couple of my pieces in that as well, so we're thrilled about that. But without further ado, here's Michael. Woo!
Thank you guys so much for coming. Friends and family and people I can hopefully meet that I don't know. This has been a really a formative experience, and I'll just have to get that out of the way because I say humble too much lately, but just humble should be the new title of the exhibition because this town loves art. It's still hard to believe that you can be a part of something like this, and I've only been doing this for 3 years, and that's what I'll get into. Seriously, only been painting for 3 years. Basically, whenever you start out trying to paint, you're painting not for money, hopefully. You don't have to worry too much. That wasn't my goal. It was, Jerry Salt says you have to make an envy of money for art, and I can be honest about that. I didn't have to necessarily worry about that, the starving artist factor, and this should just help motivate and inspire people that might not have an academic background to give it a shot, and hopefully we can have better resources like the Tulsa Girls Art School and things that can provide the resources for someone who wants to be creative, so they don't have to worry about scraping for supplies, because everyone has a hand and a voice, and if that's something they want to share, Tulsa's a great town to provide that. And we need to market those resources more, and we can talk about that after. So, I have some bullet points. How long I've been painting, I explained that it started whenever I was really in Washington, D.C. I moved up there, and I found an artist whose name is Gerhard Richter, who's possibly been the biggest inspiration for all of this. He makes his pieces towards the end of his career, which is where I took all of the first pieces. I started to model his work and not realizing, the scale difference and everything. I didn't care. I just had a little desk and a 12-inch by 6-inch piece of canvas paper. And while people were sleeping, I would stay up and try to make the smears. I loved how freeing it was, because towards the end of his career, his whole point is just piling on color with a squeegee. I didn't have a squeegee. His is about 7 feet long, and he has smaller ones. But it's a big plexiglass board, and if you look at this old man just pushing paint, he's done so many different parts of, of the arts. He's done color tracing, he's done, figurative painting, he's done photorealism, and he kind of had, this was his coming back to art. And, at 70 years old, he's holding this 40-pound giant squeegee, piling paint on very liberally, and he doesn't really care what happens. He's finally done trying to make a fixed picture, make something that's has a set design. He wanted to finally have his breakthrough. To me, it's an underrated breakthrough whenever you just allow the colors to do the work for you. And it might be also the most emotionally tasking form of painting, because you can get a little bit more calculated with your risk as you get better with just putting on color, erasing the accident. But I've followed him as he continued doing this, and he still comes to the painting with the same puzzling sort of response to, like, wow, I didn't know that was going to happen. That just intrigued me. It was someone who just only cared about discovery. They didn't need to sell any more paintings. Obviously, he's very successful. And that meant so much to me, that there was one job out there, one niche style that really made sense to me. Not having to worry about anything but spilling some color and allowing yourself to just move it across the canvas. It's as simple as that, left to right, sometimes up and down, scraping, but you're not fixing a car. It has no end point until it lets you know. And it's scary, because whenever you're investing money in paint, stuff like that, I was browning all the paintings all the time, rushing them, until I started to discover how to make this work. And that's what I'm going to go into. The biggest problem I have with abstract art, especially abstract expressionism, it's not really a problem. I want to know if it makes sense to everyone. If you're action painting or you're making an abstract expressionist piece, you should be owning it in that, when it comes to that category of art. You shouldn't be doing anything that could pull you back away from the basic principle of, I say vomiting, but you're expelling everything without control. And one of the pieces that I was talking to one of the board members about, it's not a smear painting, but it's the same concept. I had a tube of paint, a foil titanium white, and I said, I'm going to try and go from left to right, all the way to the bottom, just drawing any figures that I can, just while squeezing the tube out as fast as I can. So probably a 3-minute sort of session. And you saw what your brain was telling you, and you didn't even realize it was happening. You have to look at it 5 minutes after and just try and make out the figures And I think it's just an interesting discovery that we're not really pushing ourselves enough when it comes to that form of expression. And it's been a gift that I discovered that release because it's therapeutic now. It's something that I can't stop doing now. I'm not doing it just to discover art. I found something that keeps me balanced. And that's what I want every painting to be for now, is to just be something that isn't in my control, but you ultimately always feel the rinse afterwards. You're washing your hands, and you're physically rinsing off everything that you have on your body and bits of paint under your nails, and there's that beautiful moment of, I don't even know what I just did in there. And I have to walk back just to look at it, and you're just teased with joy. And it'll still take a couple hours to really make the picture have some sense in your mind. But there's something about that feeling that I want others to get. It's a dopamine release that is not only therapeutic, it's just good for someone who doesn't even need therapy. It's great to just, it's like taking a bicycle ride. And it's very productive for my life. Whenever I started making art, I wanted to be like Victor. I wanted to embody everything that he did. And now I'm finding ways to have my own original effect. This is what has been the culmination of that inspiration. It's been a long, long trial and error. And 32 pieces in a year is way too much. And that is just the 32 that made it to this room. So the important thing to look at is obviously the podiums. They're the ones that didn't make it on the wall. And Sina, one of the members that works here, had to put them on these podiums because she didn't just want to fill the space. She, I believe, saw how it still represents the principle of being removed, of trial and error, of trying to really, really flesh something out for yourself. This isn't a figure of painting, it's not a landscape. It usually doesn't have color theory at some points, it's just intuition. And that is probably the apex of exhausting that sort of an experience. Of really, really trying until you're done. And until you're out of paint almost, sometimes. And I'm proud of that. I'm out of order. Don't get it anyway.
A lot of notes.
Okay. So I just made some questions for myself, and I'll ask you guys questions too. My most important tool in engaging in abstract expression is obviously the tool that limits you even more in your hand. This was the one instrument that really made things happen. If you want to do abstract expression, go down the aisles of the grocery store, go to Ace Hardware, the plumbing aisles, find things that you would never suspect could be something that could apply paint. Because what happens whenever you're making any painting, even if if you try to change your style, it's your muscles, it's your muscle twitches that will always be no. How do you separate yourself from even that? Even if your brain is trying to conduct something else. I found a shower scrubber, felt or plush kind of tip, and I just started putting it in paint, and it became the most brilliant brush I've ever used. I can't find another one, but I'm still looking. But that made one of the paintings here. It's called Our Garden, and it's going to be going to Family and Children's Services Grave Center. I think that we can all make a mess with paint, but really just using the tool and separating yourself, you've already gotten the job done. Even if you just draw a couple lines, if it lasts 2 minutes or 2 hours. That would be the most important thing, is that even if you're not happy with what you made, at least you went the course. And you'll find some newfound energy whenever you're doing that. You don't really have a sense of time. You just have your unconscious brain's deadline. Whenever it's exhausted, all of its suppressed, builds up, surprisingly builds up emotions. And they come out on the canvas. They're not always balanced. You can maybe do details on them if you're really trying to sell a piece to make composition and everything work. But the bottom line is that you have to, for me, the goal is to really have a piece of your skin on the wall. Part of your life in that moment. Really capture it. And my life isn't that interesting. It's not. But I made it interesting, and I discovered more beauty in my life. And it really hits me every time still. It doesn't get old. Making paintings for you to see is the only thing that's changed. I want to try and make as many paintings for everyone to see, but I think that if you're feeling it and you really just want to paint, it's always going to be for yourself. And that's another key thing. Is try to only paint for yourself if you can. Try to eliminate all the factors that go into the business, the aesthetics, masterpieces. Yes, you should look at masterpieces, but we wouldn't have masterpieces, especially in the abstract world, if we didn't eliminate all previous notions and understandings of what a masterpiece is. I don't want to build on previous works that people have done, and that's why they look so rough, because it's in a very, I guess, a prenatal stage. And I just hope it develops and gets more interesting, and it keeps holding its depth. And I've only been receiving so much thanks and appreciation for the work. And I was talking to Jeff on our podcast that sometimes people don't have to talk. They just want to stand there with me, and they kind of just, they say thank you, which is like, it's overwhelming. It's a mental handshake that a lot of you have given me, because it's hard to describe any of these. You can say you might see some things, and I love that, and children love talking about what they're seeing in them, and adults too. Little hidden figures, shadows of your mind. And I just really appreciate everyone's love for taking it that seriously. Okay. What being an artist means to me. Being an artist, I'd like to not call myself an artist, and I don't know if people have said that, but I struggle to be an artist because I think that sounds like a job, and I just want to observe and take in everything and hopefully help provide people a little bit of a vacation from their life. Something that helps them escape, and that's what being an artist for me is. Not trying to interfere, not trying to give a critique, to pose questions, and that's what the opening night really reinforced that point, that there wasn't really any questions. There was not really any person that said, what does this mean? The fact that it happened that naturally is really incredible, and I think it brought a lot of people at ease, and it brought the show together. Everyone was on the same page with this amateur artist, a hidden idea that he didn't feel comfortable trying to express because it sounded a little like had too much fantasy, and like I wasn't answering questions and basic concepts. You got it, and I'm glad you got it. That's the whole point. Let's just take the day off when you come in here. Let's just get a wash. Let's rinse ourselves of everything that is always constantly telling us, what do I think of this? Instead, you're just supposed to observe. You're just supposed to go around and take your time and observe. It's like just being a gazer. And you gaze at things every now and then, especially when you're a kid and your brain is very vulnerable. You don't have questions yet for things. That's what is great and playful about these pieces. And it reminds me of like the biggest problem with limited resources is that we get our markers taken away from us after 5th grade. But you remember getting your first pack of markers. And it was always important to everyone, whether you liked art or not. Getting that set of markers is the first thing you were given, you were wielded with to exercise your mind. Maybe you didn't even know how to write yet, words. But those are the best paintings, kids' paintings, because they're the most honest paintings. They come from just a very nubile sense of the world. So your parents aren't going to say, what did you do here? What does this mean? Unless you're a little genius child, which they're very gifted children like that. Do things that blow my mind. But the abstract world starts there. Whatever you see is just what you see. It's never had any sort of previous history behind it that can sort of give it too much emotion. Say the color red would remind you of, a car crash that you have to see on TV that would dramatic. You might not use red. There's so many things that will happen as you get older that honestly probably scare people to make art once they get older because they know too much about the world. It sounds scary to go into the forbidden, to try to be that kid with a set of markers who hasn't asked the questions yet. just try it, maybe, just with a pencil and a pad. And if you see something that you need to stop and sit, and you don't need to ask any questions, you just want to put it down. At least I do, sometimes. So the last two questions. What compels you to paint? I talked a lot about that. I had to figure that out over the years, and it has to do not just with missing that childhood kind of innocence that our brains had, but trying to recover a lot of my memories. Whenever my mother passed away, I talk about a little too much, but I think sometimes not enough. It just, I went on my own vacation. I traveled away from an orderly kind of day-to-day life, and I was kind of up in the clouds like a lot of people after trauma. I was confronting things, but I was still on my own vacation, and it lasted a very long time. My personality had to be stronger. I had to do things on my own and answer questions that she would have answered. I missed out on a lot of just would have been more of a graceful sort of growth through my early adult years. And it's graceful now because art has given me something that takes me back to that, where I'm not trying to be strong. I'm not trying to put on a face. I am so in contact with myself. I don't feel disconnected. I finally feel connected. And I feel like everything is coming out in that therapy session all at once. And the fact that I figured out how full the jar really was, you know, all the missed times of feeling okay and trusting yourself. It all comes out, and it's still coming out. But it's coming out in a healthy way. And I don't know who to thank for giving me that. But yeah, it should be used for anyone. Like, you don't have to have something that you missed out on in life. It doesn't have to be the reason for making art. If you're unhappy with your job, when in doubt, paint it out. If you are just kind of not as optimistic as you used to be, or you're just, things are kind of boring, you might discover your next move when you paint it out. A lot of people have suggested that. Just if you're ever dealing with problems, instead of beating a wall or trying to pound yourself, with solving it verbally, sometimes just painting it out can be a little bit more of a graceful response. And sometimes life, when you're letting your unconscious do the work, it will maybe give you an answer and explain things, or just kind of help you close the book on that issue you're dealing with. It's just amazing what it can do. It's fascinating. Where do your ideas originate? Last question here. And how do you incorporate them into your art? And it would be silly to say that I don't have I have ideas. And it has to do with color. I just happen to be obsessed with color, that box of markers, because color is just so incredible. I'm so blessed that we can see color, it changes everything. It is literally the communication for the world. You know, if you can see color, you can identify moods, you can identify intensities of emotion, and manipulate color, twisting it, making a rough brush stroke. It's all explaining things. And if we didn't have them, we'd have a pretty gray, open-ended world with not a lot of intellectual thoughts. It doesn't make sense. And I think if we didn't have it, there wouldn't be give color this level of appreciation. Giving thanks to the fact that we have this life, that we started grinding down plants to make sense of this life, to make color pigment, to understand beauty here and to embrace it and celebrate it, or sadness, to come to terms with that. Cave paintings, obviously. They did not need to do that. They had other things to worry about, but they did. They needed to make sense of things. They wanted to know that physical isn't necessarily a trick, a mind game. It's real, and I want to remember this story of my life, even as this, IQ of 10 caveman. It's incredible. Absolutely incredible. Sorry. So, I just wanted the last little quote, I think I wrote down 100. But I just wanted you guys to know that I've come to understand. The question is, whenever you're asking, what are you searching for when making a piece of art? Any art, what are you searching for? And I really think that, my opinion is, you can represent anyone or anything through your art, even if you're the worst painter ever. People still feel things when I didn't necessarily feel things in these paintings. What does that mean? That goes so deep because it means that even by accident, even if you don't think you're going by the rules, you can create a language that someone, a stranger, might understand that you don't. So, and that starts a conversation, and it's the main reason why I have to keep painting. Because there might be something that someone might see I don't see. That's talking without talking. And that's the mental handshake. And thank you guys so much. Anyone would like to ask a question? It's okay if you don't have any questions. It's a cold room. Yes. What's your name?
But my question was that you had said before that you would do the work until the painting tells you to finish. Can you talk about that? How do you gauge that conversation?
Yeah, no. Great question. What I did was study the philosophy. Gerhard Richter doesn't like to talk a lot. He's a very shy German man, and he doesn't want. It's a very private thing between. It's just you and your little room. But what I saw is that he was finally stripped of his confidence in making paintings because the colors is the answer to your question. They will be the ones that decide pushing or pulling the limits of what you're doing. And it's just knowing that you can, the only thing you have control with for it to become finished is going at whatever your pace is. But as long as you're allowing everything to sort of be on its own, and you don't at one point try to, oh, I'm starting to like this, I need to start to finish it up. If you remove that and you keep going, the colors will just start to stop. And you can't push and pull anything anymore. I can describe it a little better by saying, you only have so many colors on the color wheel. Dry lips. You understand that. And you need to know a little bit of basic color theory, but once you have those tools, it's just about your endurance. And whenever your brain finally sees the colors are either not allowing any new change, and things go wrong. A lot, like 50% of the pieces that I make go wrong. They brown out, they get muddy. And I've had to come to terms with that I'm just going to have to keep experimenting, and all of these are accidents that's where I stopped and didn't push them any further. And it's building a relationship with that kind of going very, very, very deep into your mind, letting yourself separate sort of from your body, and you're fishing the whole time, and you're trying to just keep your unconscious as the only guide, and it will tell you when to wake up. It will tell you when to stop, and that's when you start to get clearer eyes, and you finally get a chance to step back, and it's done. I don't know why it's done, because it's specific to each person, and that's what Gerhard Richter would do, is just kind of go, I'm going to say goodbye to this one for a couple of days. And that's the only way to describe it, is that they have a life of their own, the colors. They do everything for you. When you have a palette of paint, and all you're doing is pushing it like a machine, you're going to have accidents, and that's the only thing. How much you poured, what colors you used, and how long your session goes for. And that's what makes you, I guess, an artist when you're doing that, is learning how to sort of monitor those factors. And then you made it. You made it work. So, does that help? Yeah. It's really hard. The colors, they're really, it's because you're worried every time. It's hard. You've tried maybe some smearing?
Silk screen and some kind of...
Great. That's similar, because you're making decisions that you, a lot of the time, don't know if they'll work out. Yeah.
You guys call yourself artists. Can you think of another word?
I have it written down, I think. How much time? I don't want to talk. Okay. I'm not an artist, I am a thinker rather than a doer. So I don't want to get too connected to what those guys are doing. When I am visually, I am a visual learner, and so I study. The only way that I was able to teach myself, I guess I'd call myself an artist if I had gone to the academy like those people have, and making a little bit of the, when you can explain that you have some background in something, because my background, I guess, is just in life, so if you can call me an artist, then you can call me an artist, you know, because now I have some background to reference. That's why I don't want to try and get, I guess I just don't like making an ego out of myself, because until I've earned it. And now I can be an artist, I guess, because you think I'm an artist, right? Do you think I'm an artist? Cool. Visionary creative. You're too kind. Yeah. And you agree with the point that it kind of just wants, I want to make sure that I know I'm doing the work justice, and this makes me feel like an artist. So I guess now I feel more like an artist.
I don't think you have to consider education.
Yeah. No, it doesn't. It doesn't require that. I made that a goal in my head that I'm going to go learn more, and I think that's the end goal, is to just keep learning and not get, you know, lazy. Yeah. Is there any other questions? Yes, Natty Watson.
What's next?
Natty Watson over here is the co-founder of a label called Cola.
You don't have to plug me.
Yeah.
Bro, you're not.
It's a music label. What's next? What's next?
What's next? For Michael Palazzo.
I want to build a giant dimensions. It's going to be outside. It's a 4-wall room. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of Julian Schnabel. He paints outside with a long stick, and he kind of just lets the elements influence his work, like lighting, stuff like that. And I would like it to be like in the middle of the gathering place somewhere. I want to lock myself in there for 24 hours and paint these 4 big walls for that time period. People can come in, and even if they want to add paint, I haven't thought it through, or insert some part of themselves on it. But I'm going to try and fill those 4 walls in 24 hours, staying awake, so I can go even deeper into my unconscious, just to experiment and see if I can push things further and discover new things. I'm an artist, like you said, we can say I'm an artist, but I've always thought, just as a discoverer, someone who's a psychologist to this realm,
How to do.
that it's hard to make happen. I mean, talk therapy and behavioral therapy and all good stuff, and psychoanalyzing things, but how honest are we always being? I think we'll never know, and I can't prove myself. I'm not always being honest. I didn't know I could do this. I didn't know I could make things. I really didn't. So that's your answer, Mr. Watson.
Thank you.
He's very handsome.
You make me blush.
Does anyone else have any questions or concerns? Give myself a name. A maker. That's really interesting. I like that.
I think you're not a doer.
Maker. What's your name? Catherine coined the phrase maker. I think more of us should be called makers who do the arts. Beautiful. That's awesome. Yeah. I said it and it slipped out. That was from an unconscious response. I'm a maker. Who else is a maker? Belle's a maker. Good, awesome. And that's it. Say hello, B, and